Hello everybody out there watching on YouTube, and welcome to the 25th race of Season 7 of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series. I am Levi McIntyre, the voice of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series, here to welcome you to the Carhartt Challenge at Sawmill Speedway, one of my favorite road courses we go to every single season as we're getting set for 20 laps of racing at this amazing road course racetrack where we might see some crazy stuff, whether it be racing on track or pit strategy. We're about to find out momentarily as we are set to get the command to fire engines, but first, Dylan Jacobs getting his second pole of the season, and starting next to him is Rafael Leduc. So the friendly rivalry between Jacobs and Leduc continues as far as qualifying. But let's go ahead and get the command to fire engines here at Sawmill.
Drivers, start your engines!
All 40 drivers rolling through the final corners of the track to get this race underway. Rest of the top 10, I see Julia Katrine, Zachary Fitzwater make row 2, with Fitzwater being on the inside. Row 3, it looks like Ricky Carman, yes, and Seth Cole. Row 4, Rob Evans, Jake Rogers. Row 5, James Qualls and Jordan Forbes. As we're getting set, the pace car is in the pit road. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what that means. Correct, it's time to boogity 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 go racing. Well, Dylan Jacobs was able to lead the first lap, and also during that lap, Zachary Fitzwater got around his teammate Rafael Leduc to get up to second. Now, Zachary Fitzwater, ever since he got his last win, it's like you just never know what to predict as far as Fitzwater on the track. Some days he'll have a bad run, some days he'll have a fantastic run. Perhaps he could try and get up to the 78 of Dylan Jacobs, because if Fitzwater were to win this race, that would be his 4th win of the season, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the record is for most wins in a single season. It might be 4, it might be 5, I can't quite remember. But Zachary Fitzwater is trying to get en route to perhaps getting his 4th win of the season. Right behind him, however, in 3rd, is Ricky Carman. Now, Ricky Carman, even though he's only been in the top 10 in points, I think, once this season, he's been a high contender as far as the Rookie of the Year battle, along with Jesse Turner and Alyssa Drayson, Ryan Acosta, and such. And right now, highest running of the rookies. Then right behind him is Julia Katrine in the 26. And despite winning a race this season, Julia Katrine has had a terrible Season 7, and luckily for her, this is actually her only season she's going to be running in this series. Rafael Leduc, who's currently running in 5th, started in the 6th position, but just hasn't really been able to, or actually he started in the 2nd spot, I should say, and just hasn't really been the same since that initial start of the run. And he's fallen back to 5th, and he comes into this race 33rd in points. So LeDuc, at one point around the 1/3 mark of the season, he was top 10 or outside of the top 10 in points, and now he's below 30th. Perhaps if he can come away with a good finish today, he could get back into the top 30 in points. Back up at the front, Dylan Jacobs still holding on to a slim lead over Zachary Fitzwater, but Fitzwater might have competition coming from behind as Ricky Carmen's trying to close in on the 12. And actually, Ricky was the fastest of all drivers on that lap, with LeDuc being the second fastest. Meanwhile, back in the 6th position is Seth Cole. And Seth Cole, last time we were here, the last race we had, which was Darlington, he got his second top 10 of the season for himself, and he's looking to perhaps get another top 10 or even a top 5 here at Sawmill. Right behind him, Jake Rogers, in perhaps his final season for now. Still way in the bottom in the point standings, 38th in the standings, but right now having a great run in the 7th position. Then behind him, we got a battle on for the 8th spot. Jay Jefferson trying to take it away from Hannah Klein. Hannah Klein, meanwhile, she's been kind of back and forth in points this season. Some races she'll move up a bunch, others she'll lose a bunch of spots in points. Right now having a good run in the 8th position. Behind her, Jay Jefferson. Jay Jefferson 6th in the standings, not too far behind the points lead. He came in 36 points behind the points leader, Matt McIntyre, but right now under attack from James Qualls, who made a huge run on the outside of Jefferson, now to the inside coming off of the final corner. And does Qualls clear him? Not quite, and Jefferson actually got a bigger run off of that corner and is going to get the advantage going over here because it's a left-hander. So Jefferson for now hanging on to the 9th position. Meanwhile, with James Qualls in the 10th spot, he's not really had a season to write at home about. 32nd in the standings coming into this race, and he's desperate to get some good runs going. Back up here at the front, Dylan Jacobs now starting to pull away just a little bit from second place, who is now Ricky Carmen, as it looked like he took the spot away from Zachary Fitzwater, and Fitzwater actually lost 2 spots that lap to Carmen and Katrine. And also has Rafael LeDuc right on his tail. Meanwhile, we might have a battle for second about to happen, as Ricky Carmen has the spot. Julia Katrine right there close to his back bumper, trying to get up to second. Meanwhile, with Dylan Jacobs leading the way right now in the race, 7th in the standings. He's had a not-so-good last couple of races. 47 points back from the points lead. And he's only had 1 win, and I can't remember off the top of my head where that race was that he won. But he's trying to go for win number 2 in hopes of getting closer to the points lead. Speaking of the points leader, let's see where Matt McIntyre is on track. And he is right there, last time scored in 21st. And he's currently battling with a few cars, Dylan Young and Clint Spillman. So this is around mid-pack, it looks like. Let's see about the scoring now. 20th. Though probably going to drop back to 21st as... Or no, he is 20th currently. Now let's take a look and see where second in points DJ Curtis is on the racetrack. There he is. Oh, he's in the dreaded bottom 5, and that is not where you want to be, is in that bottom 5 and not be able to get points. And DJ had actually just moved into second in points, taking that position over from Caleb Kilburn. Now, what's interesting, DJ Curtis has the best average finish of anyone this season at a 15.6, but because he doesn't have wins, it really messes him up point standings-wise from getting to the points lead. But regardless, if he can somehow get a better run, perhaps if he could have a great pit stop and gain so many positions, he might be able to have a chance at getting more points. Meanwhile, third in points, there he is, Caleb Kilburn, last scored 27th, but looks like, yeah, he's still 27th. Fourth in the standings, Joshua Cooley, ironically racing Caleb Kilburn, so this will be important not only for on the track, but in the point standings, because these two are third and fourth, battling it out to try and get up to the points lead. And then fifth in points, Jesse Turner, who actually lost 4 spots in the last couple of races. After, I want to say, Boston, he lost 4 positions in the standings, so he's definitely trying to come back and get the points lead back that he's had the majority of the season. Right now scored in 23rd on the racetrack. Meanwhile, let's get back up here to the front of the field, and Dylan Jacobs still leading, but not by much, 8/10 that previous lap. Ricky Carmen was able to close the gap just a little bit. But since we're getting close to the halfway point, when will these drivers have to come into pit road? Because they will have to eventually pit for tires and fuel, but if they can make it past this lap, then it'll only be a one-stop race, guaranteed. It's just a matter of when they will have to pit. But meanwhile, Dylan Jacobs still holding it down. But I can tell right here, oh, pit stops are happening. The majority of the front runners coming into pit road. Anybody going to take a risk and stay out just for bonus points? Nope. Looks like everybody's coming in at the same time, except for, looks like 2 drivers. Benjamin Miles and Joey Parkhill are going to stay out another lap, perhaps in hopes of getting out ahead and try and get more positions. I mean, that is a good strategy if you can make it work. Meanwhile, I'm keeping an eye on Dylan Jacobs. Since he came in the pit road first, who comes out ahead? It's going to be Dylan Jacobs. Then it looks like it'll be Rafael Leduc. So if things were to cycle around right, perhaps the top 5 will be Dylan Jacobs, Rafael Leduc, Julia Katrine, Ricky Carmen, and Jay Jefferson. But yeah, it's pretty much guaranteed everyone's going to make it on fuel. Meanwhile, this up here is the lead battle. Benjamin Miles has the spot, but Joey Parkhill right behind him. But now they are coming into pit road. Now, if they could manage to only do a 2-tire stop in gas, they might be able to have a chance at cycling around towards the front. Watching Benjamin Miles, nope, he's going 4 tires and gas, but what about Joey Parkhill? As I'm keeping my eye on him, Benjamin Miles coming out of the pits now. Going to lose spots, and even with a 2-tire stop, Joey Parkhill will not cycle up there. So, now with everything being cycled the way it is, let's try and do our best to do a full field rundown. So, Dylan Jacobs currently is the race leader. Second is Rafael Leduc. Third, Julia Katrine. Fourth, is Ricky Carmen. 5th is Jay Jefferson. 6th is Zachary Fitzwater. 7th is Seth Cole. 8th, Jake Rogers. 9th, Cole Deaver. 10th is Rob Evans. 11th, Hannah Klein. 12th, Jordan Forbes. 13th, Zach Rogers. 14th, Alyssa Drayson. 15th, Ryan Acosta. 16th, James Qualls. 17th, Matt McIntyre. 18th, Rafael Fireblade. 19th, Artur Castanha. 20th, Cole Baker. 21st, Dylan Young. 22nd, Benjamin Miles. 23rd, Jesse Turner. 24th, James Shelley. 25th, Joshua Sekuli. 26th, Joey Parkhill. 27th, Caleb Kilburn. 28th, Melissa Alexander. 29th, Charles Sanford. 30th, Carson Gum. 31st, with damage a little bit, Clint Spillman. 32nd, Michael Norman. 33rd is Jonathan Zorline. 34th, Jessica Sheldon. 35th, Henry Sanford. Then 36th is Cody Lamas. 37th, Kyle Matthews. 38th, Johnny Gardner. 39th, Chris Dollarton. And then we got one driver out of the race, and that's DJ Curtis, who was 2nd in points. That's going to really cost him a lot in the championship battle, because we are getting closer and closer to the end of the season to determine who is going to be the Season 7 champion. And because DJ Curtis is out, and I got a feeling he might have gotten into it coming off of pit road with Clint Spillman, hence why I saw damage on the 60, and maybe even Chris Dollarton, considering he's so far behind. I don't know, could Johnny Gardner have had something to do with it? I'm gonna try to look on board. Yeah, he's got a slight buckle on the front end of his car, so he might have been involved in whatever had happened, and we will never know, unfortunately. Meanwhile, Dylan Jacobs continues to dominate this race. Rafael LeDuc is hoping and praying he can run better lap times in hopes of closing in on the 78 to perhaps go for his first win of the season. Because remember, every season LeDuc has participated in the Marvel Studios Cup Series, he has had at least one win. And his streak of winning at least once per season is kind of in jeopardy, considering the luck he has had so far this season. LeDuc was able to close in just a touch, but not really going to be enough to help him in the long run. Meanwhile, we got a small cluster of cars from 3rd to 5th that might be battling it out soon, with Julia Katrine, Ricky Carmen, and Jay Jefferson. Next time by, it'll be 5 laps to go, so we're getting closer and closer to the end of the race, for sure. Meanwhile, looking around, and yeah, it looks like damage on both sides of Clint Spillman's car. So yeah, it must have been something big that happened between he, Dollarton, Gardner, and Curtis that caused both of his sides to be kind of pancaked in a little bit. But yeah, he's still running up to speed and battling for position. And right now, actually would be in the bottom 5, as he would be scored 36th at the line here, as he got passed by Cody Lamas. And there is the points leader, Matt McIntyre, currently 15th on track, but compared to drivers that are close to him in the standings, guys like Jay Jefferson and Dylan Jacobs, he's going to actually lose a lot of points to those guys. But I think we'll more than likely keep the points lead going into our next race. And people wonder, what's our next race? Well, we return to Toronto next week. In fact, the remaining tracks we got on the schedule, we got Toronto next, then our final 10 races will be at 8 Bowl, Watkins Glen, our second trip to Bristol, second trip to Atlanta, the Denver Oval, second trip to Ontario, Richmond, Talladega, Lime Rock, and then the finale at Kansas. Next season's schedule, however, is going to be quite different, as we might try old tracks, maybe some other new tracks. We'll give it a shot and see how it turns out. Back up here at the front with less than 4 to go, Dylan Jacobs now growing his lead a little bit over Rafael Leduc. Julia Catrine trying to hold off both Ricky Carmen and Jay Jefferson, but what a day for Jay Jefferson, as he lost a couple of spots in the standings after last week at Darlington, looking to perhaps get back into the top 5 in points, and in fact I think he will if he manages to stay up here in fifth. Although he's trying to make a pass on Ricky Carmen to try to get up to 4th. But I don't know, it's like maybe he's just playing mind games with the 51 or what, I'm not sure. But he is right there to the back bumper of the 51 and can easily make the pass if he wanted to. But it's just not going for it just yet. As we got less than 3 laps to go, Dylan Jacobs, who has pretty much led every lap except for one this race, trying to go coast to coast and win the race from starting on the pole. But yeah, Dylan Jacobs looking for win number 2 this season, and I don't know how many wins it would be overall for Dylan Jacobs. And we're coming to the line, and it's going to be 2 laps to go here at Sawmill. Margin of the lead was 3 seconds. Now it's 2.5 seconds. So Leduc actually managed to close in by a half a second. But unless he can close in massively, like down to 1 second this lap, I don't see him able to catch Dylan Jacobs. But did make a nice attempt. He closed in by a half a second that previous lap. Meanwhile, the battle for 4th continues between Ricky Carmen and Jay Jefferson. Jefferson just trying to find a line to try and outrun the 51 in to make the pass. Looked like Jefferson tried to go a little bit higher on track to get a little air to the front grille to try and maybe get a little bit of a draft from the 51, but didn't really work out too well for him. As we're coming to the stripe, the white flag is waving. Final lap here at Sawmill. The margin of the lead grew by 0.03 of a second. Dylan Jacobs pulled away by 0.03 of a second over Rafael Leduc. So it looks like the win's pretty much in the bag for the 78 unless something truly drastic happens. Looking around on track to see how everybody's faring. And it looks like everyone that's been on track for the most part still running. Just only DJ Curtis out of the race, unfortunately for him. But yeah, all Dylan Jacobs has got to do is just stay on the racetrack, and he will have this win. And we're getting ready to come through the final corners, so it's going to happen. Off the final corner, and the checkered flag is now waving. Checkered flag waves. Dylan Jacobs wins the Carhartt Challenge at Sawmill Speedway. Dominating performance, started on the pole, led every lap except for one, and still comes away with the W. Excellent job by the 78, and that's definitely going to close him into the points lead for sure. But great job for the 78, but let's look at the rest of the results. Rafael Leduc, so close, got a second place run, but this will surely give him a confidence boost going forward, especially when we return to his home country of Canada next time. Meanwhile, Julia Catrine was the highest finishing rookie in the 3rd position. Ricky Carmen's solid performance in 4th. And then Jay Jefferson gonna gain a lot of points today as he finished in 5th. Same for Zachary Fitzwater, great run in the 6th position. Seth Cole, solid run in 7th. Jake Rogers, another good top 10 for him in 8th. Rob Evans, solid run in 9th, and then rounding out the top 10 was Cole Deaver. Then there is your top 20, top 30, and then the bottom 5 for this week was Johnny Gardner, Kyle Matthews, Clint Spillman, Chris Dollarton, and DJ Curtis. So, unfortunately, none of those drivers will be scored points as you're watching Dylan Jacobs' victory burnout to celebrate his 2nd win this season. We return to Toronto for our next race, but until then, here are your results, rookie points, and regular points heading into Toronto. And this is Levi McIntyre, signing off.